So welcome everybody. This is the Microsoft 365 Power Platform community call, December 17th. This is the last Tuesday call of the year 2024, and we'll be back on the January 7th. So for the next following weeks, so 24th and 31st, those are typically public holidays in many countries, so we're taking those times off. We do understand that we are a global community. In certain countries, those days are normal working days, but it's good to know in advance that on 24th and 31st, the call will not happen. So if you join the call, you will probably see a slide presented by me or somebody else saying call is not happening today and the next week as well. But Reminder, next Tuesday, the week after, the call is not happening. We'll be back on 7th of January. By the way, we cannot send you a cancellation on those because this has never sent directly. The call invite was never sent directly for you. So we cannot kind of cancel that from your calendar. We would love to do that, but that's not possible. Now, let's move into the agenda of today. So first of all, we're going to recap again the assets which are available for you to get started on Microsoft 365 and Power Platform. A lot of familiar links probably for you if you join on these calls in advance or previously, but it's super important that we repeat those for the new people as well. There's always new people joining who needs to know where to get started, which is where we all used to be at some point. So and new people are joining every single week within this call and every single week within the community. Then we'll go to the actual stars of today. John Miller is going to talking about the introduction of Microsoft Teams App CLI. Really cool capability. Basically, it's the CLI version of the Teams toolkit, which will give you the opportunity of building, deploying, automating, packaging, all of that stuff on the functionalities, which you can actually see in the Microsoft Teams toolkit as well. Then Eric Scherlinger is going to talk about building a career coach declarative agent, which is a great demo. This is one of the open source out-of-the-box functionalities which are available for you to take advantage. So basically, as part of your Copilot license, you can acquire a career coach declarative agent, which is open source. So we can actually have a look on that one in GitHub and have a look on how it was actually built. So Eric is going to explain how it was built, what does it do, and what's the benefit of this model. And then last but definitely not the least is Shefaali and Sabin, who's going to talking about introduction to Power Platform connectors and Copilot extensibility. A lot of cool stuff on that side as well, and looking forward on seeing an update on that one. We'll do a kind of a series on these topics as well, like we've been doing with many of these topics, which is important. So we start with basics, and then we start going a bit more advanced scenarios within upcoming weeks or months. Now, before we go to the demos, typical set of things, just a quick recap. All of these community calls are getting recorded, and we publish the recordings and the individual demo videos in the Microsoft Community Learning Videos channel. AKMS Community YouTube is the channel. There's close to 60,000 subscribers already there, and we publish every single day new videos on Microsoft 365 or Power Platform in that location. We also have our LinkedIn page and group for discussions and updates, which is an easier way to follow us on LinkedIn. There's a lot of open source assets, but as it might be a bit difficult to find a relevant sample for Microsoft or for community, we do have our sample galleries, which are really the convenient way of accessing all of the samples within a GitHub. And main gallery of there is AKMS community samples, which we're going to talk about in soon as well. Now, a lot of URLs, all of those URLs and the models and community call invites and all of that is available at AKMS community home URL. Now, we do have a lot of community calls. You are in one of them. You are in a Tuesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time community call happening every single Tuesday, except on holiday season on this time of the year. And then on summertime in Northern Hemisphere, we'll always have a break, typically on July and August. But on next week and the week after, this call is not happening. So we will not have any demos because most of the Microsoft employees will be on a public holidays. Again, we understand that in certain countries within the world, that might be a normal working day, but it would be difficult for us to get actually Microsoft presenters on the Tuesday call for those days. So that's why we're canceling them. Power Platform community call happening this week, tomorrow. That's once a month with community demos. Office Admins community call happening once a month. That's happened last week. And then we have our 7 a.m. Thursday series. It's either Microsoft 365 and Power Platform with community or Viva Connection and SharePoint Framework with community. And this is basically 7 a.m. Thursday series happening every single week on 7 a.m. Thursdays. These calls are never canceled. So they will happen from this moment forward to decades. going forward on every single Thursday, 7 a.m. Pacific time. We'll be there for you if you have any questions on either of those topics. Now, you can download all of the recurrent invites at AKMS Community Calls, and you can always check out the agendas and details at AKMS Community Meetup, which is a convenient service to get an get an email about the agendas when they're getting published directly within your inbox if you prefer that kind of a messaging. Now, for a lot of these calls, we do welcome community demos. So the Tuesday call where you are right now is Microsoft presenters for community. So it's basically coming from product groups and cloud advocates and engineers explaining how things have been built. We do, however, acknowledge that it might be a bit different how you are using this tooling, and it's super important to us to understand how customers and partners are actually building their experiences. So all of you are invited to present how you're using Power Platform, how you're using Microsoft 365. What have you built? The coolest ever script, PowerShell script, which Todd Clint is right now working with Paul Pollack. That will be a really good example of a community call, which we want to actually see and explain for people in the community. We chatted a bit with Todd, so I will call him out. We chatted a bit before the call, so I called him out. But again, to get that spot is that you will fill in the form, AKMS Community Request Demo. Great way also getting MVP status or actually getting credits to get your MVP status renewed. So these calls definitely count on that. We do also have a lot of material to get started on the Microsoft Cloud, on Microsoft 365 or Power Platform. If you go AKMS M365 Dev Learn or AKMS Power Platform Learn, you'll find all of the individual Learn modules. So a lot of assets available for you to get started. And all of these modules and materials are free for you to use. Now, I did actually mention already our sample gallery. This is a brilliant location where you're going to find all of the samples from Microsoft 365 and Power Platform from Microsoft and community from one centralized location. So if you're looking for inspiration, ideas, or maybe you want to have an example, you're looking into building something for a customer, it wouldn't it be cool if I had a sample or starting point on that? Go to this location. There's right now more than 2,100 samples available. Maybe one of them is matching on your use case, and you can actually use that as a reference point to copy within your implementation. Now, as you might find the sample, you might be wondering on how do I actually get started, or how do I contribute myself to these sample galleries? And that's why we have our Sharing is Caring initiative. Unfortunately, David Warner typically covers this slide, but he's a well-deserved vacation today. So I'm going to quickly repeat on what this is all about. But Sharing is Caring is an initiative where we have MVPs and Microsoft employees helping you to learn to get started. For example, in the Power Platform sample contributions, or within the tooling, or within the community areas. We do have coaching sessions, for example, for first-time presenters within these calls. And so please go and check AKMS Sharing is Caring. You will see all of the different schedules and sessions which are coming up in the future as well. A lot of sessions coming up in spring. Now, as you then start contributing, hopefully doing a community call demo, or maybe contributing a sample, or maybe contributing a document update in our Learn platform, you will get acknowledged. As long as you sign up for community recognition program, fill in the form AKMS Community Recognition, and depending on your contribution, you will get badge, which are official Credly badges, so the same Credly which Microsoft is using for other areas as well. And this is a great way for you showcasing that you are part of this community, you are contributing for the benefit of others. And again, repeating and depending on your contribution, you will then get a different kind of a badge. And there's some of the example badges visible in here. I have to say the Snippet Sorcerer is a really good looking badge, and we are starting to share those pretty fast as a Christmas gift. Again, if you are sharing, for example, samples or contributions during the Christmas or holiday season, and then you're getting the season of kitting sample, because kit as in GitHub and all of that stuff. So there's a lot of interesting great sample patches available for you to benefit. Now, quick recap on different events which are happening. First of all, we have the Microsoft 365 community event happening in May 6th to 8th at 2025 in Las Vegas. So that's the next big one happening on next year. Then we have the European Collaboration Summit in partnership with European AI Cloud Summit and European Business Summit happening at the Düsseldorf 26th to 28th of May. Really great conference as well. We also have the TechCon 365 series happening in Seattle, Atlanta, and Dallas at June, August, and November. great opportunities to catching up with the community. And then later on the year, there's also ESBC Dublin having. This was announced 2 weeks ago when the ESBC 2024 happened. So this is next year. It's happening in Dublin. This year it was happening in Stockholm. Really well, nicely organized conference. On top of this, there's a lot of individual smaller events happening all around the world between every single week. If we look on the schedule at communitydays.org, you can see that starting from January 4th, there's again a lot of individual sessions. Some of these are in person. They might have a small cost. Most of them are free. Some of them are virtual, but you can quickly look on Dubai, Parliament, Germany, United States, Arizona, United States as well, Florida, United Kingdom, a lot of different locations. So please take advantage of communitydays.org to see the next event close to you if you're looking into meeting up with the community. Now, on the news section, I will paste in the latest news after as we move into the demo section. And there was actually surprisingly a lot of news this week happening across Microsoft 365. More and only one news in Power Platform. So I will share the links in the chat. We're not going to go through them all one by one within the call, but a lot of different announcements, especially on the Viva Connection side this time, which is actually interesting. So a lot of news articles are there. I will share the links in the chat in a second. Let me actually do that right away from one of the screens and put them in the chat if you're interested in checking out what's happening across all of the different areas. Now, before we go to the stars of the day, quick also recap and a reminder, Copilot prompts is a great way of contributing. This is community contributions based repo, which we are collecting individual prompts, what people have been using within their day-to-day work. And this week's prompt of the week is coming from Aisha Bash. Aisha is one of the cloud advocates from Microsoft. And the prompt is something like you are an enthusiastic geolocator game Copilot, and so on and so on and so on. And this is actually interesting. I wanted to spend 2 seconds on this one. That prompt, which she is actually saying there as a prompt of the week, is a bit aligned with something what we have actually in the Copilot camp. And this is a really interesting thing. If you're more technical, more kind of developer side of the house, this is how you now start programming the AI and Copilot. You're basically telling the AI the rules of the game. And this is a real Copilot, declarative Copilot. We're going to do this exercise actually in January in one of the community calls. But you no longer are writing code as in if somebody says something, then do something. You actually give the ground rules for the Copilot, and all of a sudden it starts behaving differently, including, for example, even the point systems within this game, which is really cool. It's an interesting way of how the world changes in the programming side, even in the scripting side, as we're moving into this world. Now, also a quick kind of a reminder, we are still collecting feedback on the Teams tooling developer feedback. So this is a form which we're asking you to fill in. Shouldn't take too long. AKMS Teams tooling survey. There would be a lot of happy Teams platform people to actually get your feedback on their tools. But then it is actually time to go to the Together Mode picture. So let's actually get this one moving. If you enable the camera, I will flip the view Together Mode. Hopefully everything is working fine today. It's been pretty reliable. Let me enable the camera as well. Let me move you in here. And as I say that, oh, it's working. Excellent. This is good. So we can capture a GIF animation here. And I can see Christmas theming is the big thing today, clearly. And that's really good. So let's wait for a few more seconds. We do have 50 seats in the room. Maybe we'll flip can I flip the scene? Yes, now I remember where it actually happens. Let's flip on that one. There we go. Hopefully it doesn't freeze. Hopefully it doesn't freeze. Did I broke it? No. Did I really broke it? No, don't do this. It's frozen. I will at least capture this as a frozen picture. There we go. Okay, now it's moving again. There we go. Okay, that you almost got me there. It was working so nicely. We are a bit pixelated today. I can see Kevin on the back row. That's all good. A few more seconds before we start recording. Let me then, maybe it will get a bit better. No, it doesn't. Okay, let's do the recording. 3, 2, 1. Let's do some hand waving, everybody. Thank you for joining on the call. Awesome to have you on the call. It's a bit pixelated and frozen. No. It's apparently frozen time of the year. I think many of us who have kids will see frozen this time of the year. No good do. I think I broke it again. Hopefully you can still hear me, so that's already a good start. But let's then get back on here. Cool. Let's move on the things. So let's actually move to the demo section. I do apologize on the small hiccup there on the together mode picture. So that is now all done. So let me actually flip in the gallery. There we go. Excellent. And then we'll move in the demo section of today. I'm watching the clock. We are right on schedule. I think John is ready to start. Then we go to Eric and then Shefaali and Sabin as the last section of the day. But John, I can see you on a call. Audio is good.
Thanks, Vesa. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen.
Yep.
Hi, folks. I'm a PM on Teams Toolkit, and I've been doing a series each week pretty much on Teams Toolkit to do kind of introduction to each of the tools that we have and some of the different scenarios and just kind of introduce you to how to use them. And so this is kind of a look at where I was past couple of weeks. Did an intro. We talked about VS Code. We talked about Visual Studio. And today I'm going to show you the Teams App CLI, which is also included as part of Teams Toolkit. And how do you advance PowerPoint? There we go. Just a quick recap on what Teams Toolkit is. If you missed it or maybe you haven't heard of it, it's a collection of project templates, samples, documentation, and then we have some developer tools in VS and VS Code as extensions that give you a composable task runners as to automate a lot of setup for building apps for Teams or M365. You also get a way to do groupable configuration sets. So this is what we call environments. So you can do things like dev, test, prod, etc. We have infrastructure templates for you to host these on Bicep if you want to do that. We also have a simulator-like tool for testing Teams apps called the Teams App Test Tool. And then we also have a design time previewer. That's a separate extension. It's called the Adaptive Card Previewer. So the cool thing about that is it's the exact same rendering stack that Teams use for adaptive cards. It's the only tool that has that right now. So it's a good way to kind of do design time testing of your adaptive cards. And we also have templates for GitHub Workflows, Azure DevOps, help you get started. And then I think the next session I'm going to do in this series is to show you how to use those. So if you're interested in that, you can take a look at that. And then we also have support for creating dev tunnels automatically when you use the extensions. All right, that's enough of that. Let me jump into my good old friend, the terminal. I will show you how to use the Teams App CLI, and I'm going to, bear with me, I'm going to try to do things live. I think it will be okay, though. The Teams App CLI is an NPM package, so it is a node stack tool. So if you don't like that, sorry, that's what it is. So install node, and then you can npm install Teams App CLI, and then you will have, I think, Teams App CLI. So there's a bunch of commands in here. And this gives you a way to basically get started. You don't need to use our VS Code extension. You don't need to use Visual Studio. If you have your own preferences or you just like working in the terminal, there's a lot you can do to use Teams Toolkit right from the CLI. So we have scaffolding support for our node friends in this CLI. So you can do Teams App. Actually, let me clear this. Quick way to get started. Teams App new. And if you've used the Visual Studio Code extension, then this is very similar to that. The flow and everything is the same, same templates. If you haven't, then this will be interesting for you. We have a bunch of scaffolding options for different project templates to get started with Teams apps and agents. And I'm just going to choose a simple one because I'm scared that things will break in front of you and I'll be embarrassed. So I'm going to choose a basic bot. Also, I don't want to put my Azure keys on here because I'll forget to delete them. So I'm just going to choose a basic bot, and some of these templates support JavaScript and TypeScript, and then a lot of the agent stuff and the AI projects also support Python. So thanks, Bill. So JavaScript, and we'll just go ahead and do that, and then we'll be super original here. And I've made so many of these, hopefully that doesn't conflict. All right, so now the project is created. So I'm just gonna go into that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Should be good. And I prefer to use code, so I'm just gonna open this in code to make it simpler for you to see what is going on here. And here's the project template, and we'll just continue in the terminal. And to get this started, we can use the automation and kind of configurable task runner that Teams Toolkit has. That's what these YAML files are. And the first step is to provision this, and I'm going to do it for the local environment. So by default, we have a local environment and a dev environment. And I believe that this will throw an error, and I think it's useful to show you what that error is because you'll probably hit it, because I often forget to do this. And we'll see here. So what this is going to do is go through all the steps in this YAML file to create a Teams app, which is something we need. We want to debug this easily, so we're going to create an Enter ID app for the bot, and we're going to register it with bot framework, which is what's going on here. And then we do some other things like validating the app manifest and uploading the package to the Teams developer portal. And we hit the problem.
Can it, John, one step zoom a bit?
Yeah. I knew you were going to say that. Thank you for the reminder. Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, let me know if you can't see. All right, so like I said, there's going to be a problem here. What's happening is, if we look up here on this bot framework thing, one of the inputs for that is the messaging endpoint. So this says bot framework wants to know how to communicate with my locally running bot, and it wants this environment variable bot endpoint. That isn't set, and nothing in the CLI or this file creates that. So it's complaining that, hey, you need to have this variable set, or I'm not able to provision this correctly because it's an input. So that's in here. You can see bot endpoint and bot domain are empty. So since we're using the CLI, we need some way to create a developer tunnel and for us to expose this locally running thing for bot framework to communicate. Normally, the Visual Studio Code and the VS extensions will automate this for you with our dev tunnel support, but since we're not using that, we're using it in terminal, we'll have to do that ourselves. So you can either use the dev tunnel CLI if you want and create that. You can use, what's that other tool, ngrok or edgy, I don't know how to say it, but whatever that tool is, you can use that. Or what I like to do very easily is just use VS Code. So this is the default port. So I'll go ahead and open that up. And for bot framework things, this does need to be public. So I'll go ahead and do that. And I'll just copy this. And I hit the wrong button. I'm still hitting the wrong button. Sorry. There we go. And I think I just need to put the domain in here. I don't think there's anything else. Once that's looks good. Okay, so now we have our tunnel URL. That's all set up. Get rid of that. Go back to this, and we can rerun that command. Now our input for that step to configure bot framework will be done. So this automates the messaging endpoint in the bot framework registration, which in the past you'd have to go to either your Azure bot service or the bot framework portal, and you'd have to update that messaging endpoint to point to your thing anytime that your code changed, or anytime you changed your ngrok URL or whatever. But the tools automate that. So now that's running. We just need to run deploy now. So the YAML file has another lifecycle step to separate out what deploy does. And then I think for this is just going to run basically npm install for us, and it's going to create an environment file for our runtime with some stuff that we need to configure the bot framework SDK. So we can look at that right here. So it's creating a credentials using this config class, which is, where is that? Right here. So it's just using environment variables. That's why we need it in the runtime. Okay, so that's done. And now that what we can see is we have our app package. So here's my app package. And the YAML file had an action to do that. So anytime you're confused about what Toolkit is doing, go into the YAML file, and it will tell you. It's just kind of a script that has all the automation tasks. We can see here's one right here, zip an app package and put it in that directory for that environment. So that's where that came from. Now we can get this thing running in Teams. Let's go to Teams, and we're just going to upload that package. And here's that project. Here's that package. I'm just going to sideload it so I can test it. And I almost forgot a step because I'm not used to doing this. We do need to actually run this app. It's not, the node app is not actually running. So that is my command, npm run dev teamsfx. So that's part of the template. Now that is running. And hopefully I didn't forget anything else. We'll find out in a second. So we say hi to this bot. We should just echo it. Hopefully. Just wait for that. Cool. All right. So I didn't forget anything. So there it's working. So there's our bot. There's our log message we're running with the message activity. So that is basically how you can use the Teams app CLI, and you can create a project. You can set up tunnels however you want. Dev Tunnels has a CLI tool that you can use, or you can use VS Code to kind of make that fancy if you prefer. And that's pretty much it. You can run all the other commands to execute the lifecycle steps in this, to run with the YAML files, and you're pretty much off to the races. So you don't, and then if you aren't familiar with it, what I covered the last couple of times, we also have the Teams app or the Teams Toolkit extensions. So they work with these projects, and they have UI and VS Code features to do all of those same things, including like your accounts and handling those environments. So whichever you prefer, but they're interchangeable. So you can use whichever one you want. Any questions? I think I have one slide to show you. So here you go. If you want to get started, ak.ms/ttk. And join me next time, and I'll show you how you can use this. And this is what a lot of folks are using in their CI/CD workflows to work with these projects. So they can dev with the dev tools in VS Code or VS, and then push changes and actually automate some of these steps to get them into Teams and to publish them, et cetera, using the CLI. Cool. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, John, on that one. Really, really cool stuff, and great to get this one covered. And I love the minimalistic slides. Just kidding. For the okay, let's focus on the important information, right? But really, really cool. Looking forward to the next one, which is on 7th of January. Just a reminder on that one. But then let's move into Eric. Eric is going to talk about declarative agents in Microsoft 365 Copilot, and in this case, Career Coach.
Thank you, Vesa. You should see my screen by now, right?
Yep, we can see the screen. Take it away.
Perfect. So Career Coach is one of the 5 first-party declarative agents that we ship in the store. Is leveraging the knowledge of the model, which is GPT-4o, to guide you into your career. So it's a good tool to ask questions about skill gap analysis, building a development plan, asking for advice, and networking strategy, and so on. So it's really a good use case to demonstrate how out of the box the LLM is able to answer so much of those line of question. It is pre-configured as well with the graph connectors and the OneDrive and SharePoint data. So if the customer or your tenant has meaningful information in terms of career, it will as well leverage that. So it's pretty interesting because you can even leverage your hierarchy and saying, oh, you should schedule a meeting with your manager to discuss XYZ and so on. And as we are all have pretty formal, career growth and so on, it's already out of the box knowledgeable. So that was for the slide. Comments. As we said, it is a template that's available. So since Friday, it is available in Agent Builder, where if you start Agent Builder, you'll find the different template there. And I'm running in French because I wanted to show another part of the demo, which is multilingual. So it is definitely on purpose. You can click here and preload automatically the model of the Career Coach and modify it as well to your liking on your own. If you're more in the ProCode way, you can run the AKMS 1PDA for first-party declarative agents samples, and that will bring you directly to your PNP repo for the ProCode samples. And in the samples, you'll find all the DAs. And you see 5 hours ago, I just did a commit to share with you all the code about localization of those DAs. So it could be pretty interesting to look into how we do that. So once you clone, you can open it with your Teams Toolkit favorite tool. On top of having cool icons, you can check out the configuration of the declarative agent and the introduction of the localization. Everything is done through variables that map to specific manifest file per language. So here we have everything that we localize for Microsoft in 25 language. So that can give get you an idea of what to localize, not localized. We did not localize the agent name for a specific reason, because when you publish app, you need to register the names. So that means we had 5 agents in 25 language. So that means quite a few names to register that didn't feel appropriate. So that's something interesting. The interesting part as well, it's when you do localization, no need to localize your instructions. Everything, the LLM is multilingual, and all the front end and public information of the agent are in the declarative agent file and the manifest file of the Teams app, essentially. So you just have to create that, create the different files, map it with the variables, and you're good to go. As we're doing a demo, let's do a custom version of our agent, and I wanted to show multi-language. So I just updated the name in French. That's why I changed my UI. Moving to the Teams Toolkit. In the Teams Toolkit, when you're doing a DA, there is 2 buttons that are interesting. The first one, which is provision, it will sideload and preload everything that's required for your agent. So that's what I'm going to run. It's based on 5 steps, and know you can do it with CLI as well, thanks to John. And you have another function, which is zip the Teams app package, that enable you to create a zip of the package if you want to publish it or something like that there. So it's taking a few seconds to kick in. All good. Now I can switch back to my Copilot window. I'm going to do a refresh, and hopefully I should see a new career coach, which I guess is this one. And it's not multilingual. Okay, so a good demo for today. I'm really sorry about that. I'll have to check why the side loading did not happen correctly on the tenant, because I was expecting to have career coach ML. It's not showing up. But you get the idea. All those are the ones that are going in the store as we speak. They are not yet live. So the only way to access the multilingual part is either using Agent Builder, and you saw it's already localized, or you can use the Procode way with the Teams Toolkit. And that's it for me today.
Eric, don't stop sharing.
Yes.
I will not let you go yet. Can you go to the actual prompt instructions TXT file?
Of course.
Because again, I think it's really, really, really interesting. So Eric, I know that you've been working for Microsoft for quite a long time. Can you zoom in a bit? Control
Sure.
and the scroll bar. And then we all might have for those who have a developer background, we used to try to detect the customer intent by saying, if customer says blah, 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 then blah, blah, blah. If customer says blah, 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 blah. But
Exactly.
here, programming is completely different, like we chatted on the
Agreed.
intro. So can you talk about your mental, how long did it took you to understand how this actually works? Because this is programming. This is how you make the career coach to work as a coach. And it's not really code. Right?
Exactly. So it's pretty interesting, because in that case, we started very early when the declarative agent started, and we had no knowledge on instructions and prompting. So it's been as well a journey for us to learn. But what we learn is, first of all, to structure the prompt. And we wrote a white paper that's on Learn on how to write instruction by structuring and trying to use Markdown. Markdown is not really important for the LLM, it's more for us. So it makes it easier to read. And actually, the Teams Toolkit as well is doing a good job as well to scaffold that in a TXT file. So it's simpler it's simpler to write and to read. So it's super important to be structured, first of all, for you, but as well for your debugging, because you're going to be iterating on those instructions. You come up with your use case, your IDs, you start writing up, you sideload, you test, you say, it's not really doing what I want. So you go back to your instruction and remodify a few things. So that's super interesting. And here you see we created a purpose where we describe who he is and what he's planning to do. And then we give it goals, how he should function. And then we give it some directions, which are more guidelines linked to some of the scenarios. And so you can, do the if then else in that same matter, and you can have any control you want. So you can even pilot his decision in terms of just responding to you directly and asking you a question. So you can envision having a multi-turn conversation, or you can even tell him, at this point, you should call my plugin that I added, which is a bit more complex declarative agent, but that's definitely the way to go. And here, what's super cool, it's because we're using GPT-4o, we've got access to so much data, and more than else, it's really the model that's answer more than anything else. So you're guiding the LLM into writing the right thing. You just give him clues. So the best way after is really to look your use case and do some research, obviously. So we did a bunch of research about career plan and what should be the output, and that's really the energy we put into it. More about formatting the content than really teaching him about how to be a career guide, essentially.
Yeah, it is the kind of programming style is so different because classic terms to use like fuzzy logic. You're trying to tell you're programming in natural language, which is so different how we used to do this in the past. And also coming back on what you were, Eric, saying, you can explicitly say that to use your plugins, but you would actually write that in English. You would say, yes, whenever somebody is actually asking any questions on this, please use this and this plugin. So it's not really coding, but it is coding, which is really interesting.
Yeah. Maybe next time we'll show up, I can come back and present one of the internal DA we built that's connected to our CRM and some of our SharePoint sites with some really coding about back and forth and so on, which is a good learning opportunity as well.
Definitely welcome. Definitely. Yes, Tim is having a great comment in the chat for those who are watching the recording as well. Like you're talking to a brilliant 5-year-old. You're basically explaining the behavior. and the debugging is just about writing it correctly and making sure that when you read it, it's understandable and not. So it's good to have a friend to give it, to say, hey, can you read the thing? Does it make sense? Yes. So normally then the LLM is doing good. Yeah. And a final thing before we move to the final demo of today, I love the fact that, Eric, you called out the language thing. LLMs are incredibly well and good on multilingual capabilities. So you can technically provide these instructions in any language, and it will able to understand that, which is mind-boggling. It's like, wow, that's really, really cool.
And you just focus on translating the front end. All the strings that we're seeing is the starter prompt here with the title and the text and the description that you see in the store window. That's it.
Yep. Yes. And if you start asking questions in Swedish or French, it will just flip the language, which is magical. It's just mind-boggling. But again, more demos coming up on all of the Copilot LLMs and all of that, and definitely in the future as well. Eric, we'll need to get you scheduled on the internal demo as well, because this is really, really cool stuff for sure. Thank you for this. Now, next we'll move into Shefaali and Sabin, and we're going to talk about the introduction of Power Platform connectors and Copilot extensibility.
Great. Can you guys hear me and see my screen?
Yep, we can see the screen. Audio is really good as well. Take it away.
Awesome. So we very impressive demos, by the way, and we are on the other side of the spectrum from the low code, no code side. So you would see how some of these things can be achieved without writing much code. I don't know if that helps the audience here, but so my name is Sabin Nair. I'm a product manager in the Dataverse team. Along with me, we also have Shefaali and Nitin, and they'll introduce as we go on. We have a couple of demos to show, just a couple of slides too. We have a little bit for everybody. First of all, huge thank you to this audience, like 210 right before Christmas. This is amazing. So really appreciate everybody taking the time. So we have a little bit for everybody. I'm sure some people are new to Power Platform and Power Platform connectors. So we'll have a little bit for them. We also will have a demo for the recently announced Snowflake Power Platform connector. That's gaining some audience. We talked about Copilot. So you also saw declarative agent. We'll have some demos of that with actions. And of course, the certification piece. So to kind of wrap it up. So without any further ado, let me just get to a couple of slides and then we'll get straight to demos. This is one of our very popular slides that we use. It's basically a huge thank you to the community here of developers who are building connectors for us along with independent publishers. And we have a pretty thriving ecosystem, thanks to all of you, 1,400 and counting. So these are all connectors, Power Platform connectors that are being used historically for Power Platform. And when I say that, what I mean is you have Power Apps, Power Automate, and now Copilot. And essentially, just to give you a quick definition of what Power Platform connectors are, it's basically a wrapper around an API. So if you have an API that you want to use as a connector in any of these Power Platform, that's what you build using our authoring tools. Now, why connector? Why the wrapper? Well, as I said, it's the low-code world. So you have non-developers. Somebody asked me, like, how do you best explain Power Platform? We often say it's low-code, no-code, and all these things. But I think there used to be a very popular article, I think in the Chronicle. I don't see it anymore. It's from Charles Lamana, who runs his group. It was really good when it explained, like, if the world had, like, I'm just making up this number, say 100,000 developers who create, say, 500,000 apps, but the world needs like maybe 5 million apps. So who's going to do the delta? So people who do not write code should be able to develop apps, create apps with very simple expression-like language. And that's where the Power Platform really shines. So as you saw earlier, you can do things in the pro code way. There's definitely benefits there, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But we are just trying to pull a community here who can build apps without writing code. So again, back to the Power Platform connector, it basically enables you to call these connectors. Once you provide a wrapper, you can call these connectors without always writing code. So if you're a developer, you know how to deal with APIs, great. If you're not, you should just be able to call these connectors into your applications. And that's how these 1,400 connectors came to be. In Power Apps, like popular connectors are like the Salesforce, Freshdesk. There are some internal connectors as well, Excel, like the first-party connectors like Excel and SharePoint, which are extremely popular. Obviously, you're using them in apps. You can also use them in workflows. You can have automated workflows, which basically works on a trigger. So you have a record changes in a CRM system elsewhere, and then you want to drop an email or create an action based on that change. So these workflows is what Power Automate does. So that's like a spectrum of like what Power Platform connectors are and basically the types. Now there are more specific types. For example, there are custom connectors. So all these connectors that I'm talking about is externally. I need the WhatsApp connector. It's coming actually. So we are actually working very closely with them. So what I was trying to say is like you may also have proprietary databases within your firm, within your company, or the people you're helping out, and you don't always have to make these connectors publicly available. you can easily write a custom connector. In fact, all connectors, when you start authoring, start off as custom. So you can very much write custom connectors, and that has a pretty big ecosystem as well. And Shefaali might be able to throw some numbers there. So there is another one. I mean, there are all these different flavors, but I don't want to go with a number of types of connector. That is not the goal. We're just trying to we're slowly kind of expanding this ecosystem. The latest people may have picked up from Ignite was the Snowflake Power Platform connector, which is in public preview. That is slightly different, a more enhanced connector. We call it tabular connectors. Basically, when you have data sources, which are data sets, structured data, and you want to expose them in a very efficient way, tabular connectors kind of come into the picture. We don't have a whole lot of them. There is a decent percentage of 1,400 which are tabular connectors, but we are also trying to see, we need to build a community around that. So expect a lot more documentation, self-learning, and kind of able to self-serve and build these connectors. So moving forward, let's just get to a demo. We'll have Nitin from my team do a quick demo with the Dataverse and Snowflake integration. Nitin, you want to take it away?
Yes. Is everybody able to hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Sure. Display this?
Yeah. Okay. Let's say this is data from a pet adoption center where you see a table where you have the list of all the dogs up for adoption. In this table, you're able to see different data like the name, breed, age, and whatnot. So let's say if I want to make any editing here, like for ID number 1, Max, if I want to update the age and weight, the traditional way is to add an SQL statement and then execute that. But with the Snowflake connector, that is much easier. So all you have to do is, let's say you create an app and then you see the same data here in a table. So I can just go to the edit button and then update the age from 8 to 9, and then also update the weight. And once the update is done, just hit save, and then it'll take a couple of seconds, and then go back to your Snowflake, run the same query again, and then you'll be able to see the updated data. So with age 9 and weight 92. So it's this simple that all you have to do is perform CRUD operation on your table. And then the way you do it is first come here, create a connection on Snowflake. It's a service principal credential. Just add the required fields. And then once you have it, create the connection. Once you create the connection, you can see it in the connections page. And then next step is to create a virtual table. And then once you have the virtual table, just create a model-driven app on top of it. It's that simple. Here you can make all the modifications. You'll see that in Snowflake in real time.
All right, moving on. Thanks, Nitin. So with agents, we saw some demos here, and I'll just quickly cover this. One of the good ways to get grounded on what agents are. There are multiple types of agents. So historically, Microsoft has always put forward their Copilot. How do you extend these Copilot for your own business needs, which is true 95% of the time people want to customize it. If you look at the slide, look at it from a left to right kind of perspective. So you have declarative agents, which are more well-defined, customizable to some extent. You can write customizations of how it should behave in certain conditions, but it has a set orchestrator behind the scenes. If you come on the right-hand side, the custom engine agents is a lot more pro-code friendly, very powerful because you can customize practically everything about it. There are a few custom engine agents already being written, so those are some good examples. And also from a tooling perspective, Copilot Studio is where you would build a declarative agent, again, without any code. And Visual Studio Code is where, along with Teams Toolkit, is where you would build some of these custom agents. So let me show you a quick demo of a declarative agent with using connectors as actions. Okay, so I have two declarative agents. I just thought while I run the command on one, the other one, I can show the other one. So one of them is a sales agent, which basically has using the Salesforce connector action. So I'm using a simple, so the experience is like you go add an action, you say Salesforce, and it will show you the list of Salesforce actions. So here you have all these. I'm choosing the get records action because I want to just list some records. And by the way, somebody may have covered this before, but I'll just quickly go over it. The anatomy of an agent is, if you look at it, there are two parts, at least two parts, apart from the logo and everything. There's a knowledge part and there's an action part. So I'm not using any knowledge for this demo, but typically I think if people have seen previous demos as well, the knowledge is basically you're telling the Copilot or you're telling the agent where to look for how to ground your answers and what are the sources for that. And the action part is you're taking an action based on the questions that you've asked, based on the insights you've learned. So what I just showed you was a list of actions for all these 1400 connectors. And in this case, I'm using the Salesforce connector, and I'm also using the Outlook connector. So let's just run a quick command like get leads. So I want to get leads from Salesforce. And we expect it to come back with showing all the leads, which I can filter as I want to. Or I could also take an action, further action of like taking all the leads and maybe drafting an email. So let me just copy paste something for you. All right. So this is the set of leads that I have in Salesforce that I'm getting it from an agent that I built. I can also write a command like, hey, get the leads and draft an email to me with the subject as top leads. So let that run. And while that is running, I'll switch to another agent and show you something different. In this case, I'm using the fresh desk. Again, I'll go to this, add an action, say fresh desk. And I have a few available actions from the connector of getting a ticket, creating a ticket. These are the two that I'm using here. So if I say get ticket, it requires an ID, so ID 5. And this is just for quick purposes. Otherwise, I could have said get ticket. It would prompt me for the ID. I can give the ID to it. And in this case, I just wanted to say that, hey, it's just listing the ticket ID from Freshdesk. So there you go. It's a plumbing repair ticket, and it has all the details with it. Now, what I can do is I can also create a ticket with something like by providing some details that, hey, the subject should be main door, the description should be repair main door. I could do that. And while I run that, I'll also quickly show you what this looks like in Freshdesk. So you see that it just said one new ticket created. If I go there, it just created the main door ticket with setting the priorities and other pieces accordingly. So this is just a quick demo to show what an action looks like in some of these agents. If I go back to the community, I should have told it to send it. And it actually drafted an email to me, to Sabin, with the subject as top leads as I asked it. If you remember, the command was get leads and draft an email to Sabin with subject top leads. It just did that, and it's now saying that it's send an email. Oh. Okay, it's actually, it does that too. Okay. Never mind. It didn't send the email, but just if, okay, never mind. But you get the overall point of it. This is what extending connectors to copilots looks like. One call to action here is, as I said, thank you for what you've already done for us. But if you could, one, continue to build these connectors, kind of pool in and contribute to this connector ecosystem. As you can see, it's being widely used. There are a few recommendations that we'll throw starting new year as to what are the few things that you can do better when you start building something for co-pilots with agents, like better descriptions and some other enhancements. So we'll provide that starting next year, and we'll come back and do a demo again here as well. That's one of the call to actions. Now I'll switch to, and the second one is like the Snowflake connector is out there. There is a good amount of usage and people are building apps So feel free to give it a spin, keep us grounded, and give us feedback. Over to Shefaali to take it away for some stats and some certification.
Can I just take over the screen?
Sure.
Is it visible?
It's loading. Let's wait for a while. There we go. We can see the screen.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so thank you, Sabin and Nitin, for setting up the context for audience and demoing the power of Power Platform connectors. Now we'll shift the gaze a little bit and we'll try to understand the connector ecosystem through numbers and scale. So at present, as Sabin mentioned, we have nearly 1,400 connectors which are certified, which means these connectors are available for you out of the box to establish connectivity across different APIs. We also have 62,000 custom connectors which are there that the end users have actually tailored to suit their requirements within their organizations. We have nearly 3,000 pre-built connector templates which cater to vast variety of connectivity solutions within Power Automate and enables you to get started. So no need to create a new connector all the time. And we also have a whopping 22 million customers across these different categories leveraging these connectors. And our data represents some top use connectors which are built by third-party ISVs, Microsoft, and also our very vast community of developers. So we have Adobe, DocuSign, Encodian, and S3 connectors that top the list of ISV built connectors. We have SharePoint, Office 365, Excel, and Teams that tops the list of Microsoft built connectors. And we have connectors from OpenAI, Telegram, and Hashify built by our community developers like Robin, Wong, and Troy. Now, the real magic is that you can also contribute to the connectors ecosystem. As Sabin and Nitin mentioned, building connector is a very low-code approach. Once you build these connectors, you can certify these connectors and get it listed in our catalog. And what certification does is it enables you to expand the reach of your API to the users of Power Platform and Copilot Studio. So Microsoft certifies the connectors by running thorough technical, functional, and branding validations. And the end users are who are going to be consuming these connectors would be able to avail low friction connectivity with your service and also ensure that they are getting like high success rate and reliability as well. Now, there are bonus benefits of certifying the connectors as well. You belong to the official list of nearly 1,400 connectors, and you get to unlock the marketing opportunities through various Microsoft channels. And you also get to drive the usage of your API through connector-based templates. And we are growing at a massive scale, and we are adding approximately 30% growth in connector ecosystem year on year. We have the largest contribution, close to 50% coming from our ISVs. 26% of these connectors are contributed from our fantastic community of developers, and we have another 25% contributed by Microsoft itself. We have invested the past year in continuously improving the certification and publishing of these connectors. And in Build 2024, we moved 100% of our ISVs to mainstream marketplace, that is Partner Center. And this migration has enabled to bring down the certification timeline from months to a PAT of 48 hours. We are still on the journey to make this even more seamless, and we want to enable the similar experience for our community of independent publishers as well. We have a fantastic library on GitHub where we want you all to contribute to the connector ecosystem. And in the upcoming year, we would be investing heavily to scale our connector ecosystem, and we want to partner with you all in this journey. We will continue to evangelize with the community the new opportunities for improving the experience for building, certifying, and also publishing these connectors. We will be available on this channel on a monthly basis to share the latest updates in the connectors world, brainstorm new ideas, and also get your feedback to optimize further. So thank you so much, Vesa, for organizing this, and you can stay in touch with us and learn more about today's discussion by scanning the QR codes on the screen. These QR codes will route you to understand more about Snowflake Connector, our Power Platform GitHub repository, and also certification and publishing of these connectors. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Really, really cool stuff. And thank you for the recap of what this is all about, and good to see the development. It's awesome to see. I've been actually even personally super close when the independent connector work started many years ago. I've been around for a long time, so I did help some of the people at the time to get started with the community side. So good to have all of this work back in the calls, and we'll definitely keep on having Shefaali and the team recapping or sharing more insights on the connectors in future as well. So looking really good. Numbers are amazing, by the way. It's magnificent to see that growth.
Yeah, and this goes back to the community. I'm not kidding you. Like the numbers on both the sides, the authentication, the usage is purely driven by the quality of connectors and the number of connectors we have. So let's keep on building. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Shefaali and Sabin. Awesome stuff, and great to have you on the show. And as a recurrent visitors on the weekly show, we'll get them back in a monthly basis to share updates and insights, and even maybe more. So let's see how this will go for the next semester. But thank you for that one. Now, thank you, John. Thank you, Eric. Really cool demos today. We are a bit over time, so that's fine. I will just close up the typical recap demos. So again, just a reminder, on next week and week after, 24th and 31st, we will not have the weekly call. Then we're back on starting from 7th of January, and we'll have John coming back and then talking about the Microsoft Teams Toolkit. So pretty development-specific topic. Mark Windle is going to talk about latest on SharePoint Embedded, and we'll potentially have a third demo there. Let's see if that will get confirmed, or maybe it will be 2 demos. We'll see. But that's on 7th of January. Again, in the meanwhile, please take advantage of our Discord server. That's one option to engage with other people in the community. Again, there's so many forums out there. This one was created just in case for those people who are familiar to engage with the Discord. And there's more than 2,400 members there as well. You can join there at AKMS Community Discord. Great option as well. Now, for the community calls, we're always looking for feedback. So please, if you have a few minutes, fill in AKMS Community Calls feedback. If you have filled in that at some point, you can fill it again and give us updated feedback on the calls. But that's it for today. The recording will be available within 24 hours at Microsoft Community Learning YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Blue Sky. We'll share updates on all of those when the community call is recording. If you subscribed, you will get notified of course on that one. The next call on 7th of January, as mentioned quite a few times here, but that's just in case so that everybody remembers. We'll be actually there for 24th and 31st to let you know that the calls is not happening. But anyway, 7th of January will be the thing for this particular call. This week, we'll still have Power Platform monthly community call with community demos, and then Thursday community call with community demos as well. So you can see more details as AKMS community calls. But that's it for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you one more time for all of the great presenters of the day. We'll be back within a few weeks. Have a great holiday season if you are celebrating at this time of the year. Cheers. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.